Okay, so today's episode is with a gentleman called Theo. And Theo is a lovely fella from Nigeria who's been in this country 20 years, close to 20 years, I believe. But he spent an incredible amount of time, money, and effort in education from Nigeria and in Ireland. And he's got a very deep thinking mind. He analyzes everything he goes through and anything he does. And so he's sort of crafted together some very interesting thoughts on education and our approach to it. And so we discussed, this podcast pretty much all focuses around education, communication, empathy. It's kind of interpersonal relationship skills. And it actually turned out to be a very good podcast because he covered a lot of important aspects that you don't actually get taught in school and that you won't have naturally inherently in your personality, the traits needed to be a good listener, to be a good communicator. You see, he has experience because not just attending colleges and seeing how everything's structured, but afterwards coming out of college and trying to put it into practice. And like a big part of it is when you sit down in the interview, how do you communicate with people? How do you connect with people? And that word connect will keep coming back up. So we discuss those sort of crucial untaught aspects of communication, being a good listener, and how it benefits your life and the relationships with those around you, and ties quite closely in with empathy and the ability to understand and to put yourself into the mind frame of the person that you're in relationship with or discussing with or dealing with. And it's a very important aspect to be able to become good at, the ability to empathize. So it's quite a practical podcast. There's a lot of important pieces of information to take away. Theo's a lovely dude. He's lovely to talk to. He's super easygoing. He's super friendly. He goes out of his way to try and help you and to try and get you to understand, to empathize with you. So it's a good podcast. I hope you enjoy it. There was a problem with the sound. I don't know what happened. It's the first time this has ever happened. There's segments. You'll hear it where it switches over between the mics and the camcorder audio. I had to use the camcorder audio because my audio just dropped for those segments. It just died, no quality, no sound whatsoever. No idea what happened. It didn't happen in the podcast after or the podcast after that again. So apologies for that. They're short little blips. It only happens towards the beginning and then it fixed whatever was wrong. It fixed itself and the rest of the audio was all clean. But apologies for that when people who are listening or watching. Also need to apologize for my fridge. It sounds like a turbocharger, like a jet engine taking off whenever it goes through its cycles. So if that buzzes through you as well at any stage, I apologize. One day I'll have a 6 studio and I won't have any of these problems. But we haven't got there yet. So, Rambleland episode 10 with Theo.
So we're going to make it a conversation, man.
Theo! I finally get to talk to you. we have been trying a long time to get this podcast rolling.
Yes. And I tell you what now, Tim. In as much as I'm here, I still feel the bit of... am I on...
You are, yeah.
Is the tape rolling now?
It is, the tape's rolling.
It is rolling.
At any stage as well, if anything is said that you don't like, let me know and we can fix it.
All right, okay. Well, anyway, you're going to do editing, so...
Yeah.
So, Tim, listen, thanks for having me. It's been quite an experience over the COVID time, and we've not had a chance to catch up.
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on, man, and you're looking smashing. Like, I couldn't... Look at the size of you. Man. The gyms have been closed for months now. They open for a few weeks. It doesn't really count. What are you doing to stay in such shape, man?
I suppose I have a very good inspiration from people like you.
Get out of here! Don't be smooth talking.
I mean, let's think about it. Everything is slowed down when you're here, running all the way through, doing the podcast and all that. Yeah. No, but really, I just reckon one of the ways to distract oneself and to keep one, minds intact, so we don't lose connection with ourselves, is to engage, and I do the little bit I can from home. Just
all your trainings at home, is it?
Yeah, all at home. Yeah, indoors.
But man, like you're jacked. You're really physically large.
I suppose it should really be embarrassing if I was unable to train. Having been trained and qualified as a gym instructor. I suppose nothing less of this should be expected, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you have to live the what you preach. So give the people a little bit of an introduction of who you are, because obviously not many people that'll be watching me are going to know you. So the floor is yours.
Right. Okay. First of all, thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolute pleasure.
The name is Theo. Theophilos. Theophilos. I'm from Nigeria originally. I've been around in Ireland for 18, 19, 20 odd years. You know, I'm a father of 3.
Okay.
Happily. Yeah.
Nice.
I suppose that's pretty much the very short intro I can tell you about myself. I'm a great fan of self-development.
Yeah.
I think the next frontier in education is just going to be self-development, because our conventional forms of education don't really give us enough of what I personally deemed as core necessary skills we need to have as humans. I mean, if you reflect, the pandemic have just come to reveal that to us. We see depression and anxieties, you know, skyrocketing,
man.
We see people completely dissatisfied with themselves. We see a situation where we have abundant stream of information, but yet the ignorance seems to have actually increased. We live in the generation and the age of smart technology, but we see the stupidity of different forms just all around us, and we keep wondering what's going on. And
do you think that schools have a responsibility to teach people the skills they need to circumnavigate some of the consequences that come about when life-changing decisions happen? Do you think that's a responsibility for school? Because school was traditionally you went there so that you could do the basic, so you could acquire the basic skills needed for getting on in life. So reading, writing, maths, English, grammar, and they began to introduce other things. But you're kind of looking at it that maybe schools need to step up their education in terms of teaching more to the, I don't want to say spiritual side of humans, but the emotional chemistry that makes up someone's mental state.
Okay. First off, look, I want to first send my appreciation, respect, and regard for the schools, because they're doing enormous amount of job right now. You know, I mean, we don't even recognize them well enough. But it would be unfair to transfer this huge responsibility to school. You know, as a matter of fact, talking about that question, you know, there's this text I saw the other time on WhatsApp, someone forwarded it to me. I thought it made really sense, and it really suits into this. It's actually from a friend.
Yeah.
The text read this way. It was a letter from the school to parents. And the text was like, look, dear parents, in school we teach your children mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology. At home, we expect you to teach them how to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Teach them how to wash their clothes, brush their teeth, because we don't have enough time to teach them all that. It shouldn't be the core job description of the school, but in fairness, again, a much wider perspective, I think the curriculum of the school actually could be, you know, looked into. Maybe it's long served its purpose. We need to rethink our educational system. You know,
it's interesting because my mother was retired now, a primary school teacher, and towards the end she noticed that there was more workbooks and more focus given over to dealing with children's emotions and with, I suppose, as putting their mental health in the forefront of the child's mind, to understand that you have a brain that creates emotions. You're going to
oh yeah.
Do you want to kill that?
Yes, please.
No problem. No problem at all. They're trying to focus more on educating children that your emotions and what you feel are important, and you need to address them, and that you can't just suppress them, and that they won't go away. And I actually saw some of the workbooks that she bring home, and it actually wasn't too bad. But you see, she combines it with the removal of religion. So she dislikes where they're coming from, because it's entirely secular knowledge, and it's a Protestant primary school, and so religion was always at the forefront of why the school even existed. It was set up by the church in order to not only teach children, but to teach them about religion and about God. And so in the way society is going at the minute, where we're stripping God out of it, we're inserting things like learning to control your anger, and teaching little sort of skills about learning how your mind works, as opposed to what did religion do in the past? Religion told us how to behave and how to conduct ourselves, and so I suppose now they're just looking to instill a little of individual knowledge on how to conduct yourself and how to behave. And I remember saying this to my mother when she was giving out about it a small bit, was what religion failed to do was it failed to teach the individual on an individual level. It said, well, we have God's spoken word, you must obey it because it's God's word. And a lot of the time it was fear and ignorance. We're like, yeah, okay, we'll follow it. But you had skipped over a huge amount of what makes up a human, which is their psychology, their how their brain works, how they think, how their emotions react with them. And the church never gave enough time to dealing with the nitty-gritties of everyday life in terms of humans' emotions, because the Bible didn't talk about it. And so what they've done now is they've kind of stripped it back so that we teach them emotions first, and later on they can make up their own minds when they're more stable and when they've sort of developed their own mental structure. And so I was telling my mother that it's actually beneficial with the way they're sort of approaching it now. And she understood what I was saying, where I was coming from. But it does tie in with how the job of the school was first to educate, and if your parents aren't teaching you the rest, you're at a constant everyday handicap that you may never realize until you're 24, 25, 26, and you meet other people who've got all these, who are taught about the sort of the mannerisms and how to behave. And as a result, they did better than them. You notice a lot when you live with somebody for the first time. You know, it's like, wait, you don't wash your fork before you put it back in the drawer? Yeah, why not? You never told to pick up your clothes. Did you never put your dish in the dishwasher? All these kind of little things that you see that they obviously didn't have to do at home. And so there's skills they were lacking. Now, by being around your peers and by being around other people, you pick up these skills and you can acquire them. But the fact is that their attention was never drawn to how they should have been conducting themselves anyway. And so if you could incorporate into education the ability to draw students' attentions to these other facets of their lives and other facets of their mental health, so that they went away with the knowledge that there is something more that I have to then work on outside of school. That would be one way of looking at that. You could sort of alter the education system.
I certainly agree with you. In fact, I tell you what I believe, that our educational system currently needs rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation?
It needs rehabilitation. We need to rethink what are the curriculums we're trying to teach children. In the first place, the people that have been tasked to teach these children, this whole idea of responsibility and all those social things, how much do they know about that? They themselves need to be retrained. Sometimes I think it's a little bit unfair when we put so much burden on the teachers and transfer the responsibility of parenting to the school. But of course, I see what you mean. There could be a comprehensive approach to solving this thing, which might probably be a situation where some of our subjects we're currently teaching are no longer relevant to the future of the child. And I think as well there's very less attention given to how the whole pressure impacts the mind of the pupils and the students. We've never really brought the mental health challenges of students in the forefront of discussion. We've always assumed, they're children, they'll be okay, they're resilient, they can get around, they can get all the stuff. But I think we are at the stage that we need to really rethink. about how these issues could be really truly addressed. For example, recently you can see the grading system in the UK that they first use the predictive system.
Mm-hmm.
It don't work, and they turn around and go this way. And we in Ireland, we're also trying to form our own ways, and we have our method. But how reliable are these? Is this a true reflection of the outcome of the performance of the students? Nobody ever talked about how emotional, psychological, or even home conditions impact the outcome of these students. There's too much emphasis on the idea of getting the grades, and there's a disconnect of the very core and essence of humanity in a way in this thing. Because look, think about it. What has a musician got to do with the business of studying physics and astronomy? It's never gonna be that. You set up the educational system in such a way that is set up to make people fail under the pressure. I'm not an expert in pedagogy, but I can tell that quite obviously, because of my own personal experience as well, I can tell that there's something profoundly wrong. Like, I give an instance now. When I was growing up, the environment in which I grew up, the only way at that time to escape abject and extreme poverty was to go to college. So you cannot imagine. So the motivation behind it was just to escape poverty. But let's think
and
about...
that's a powerful one, motivator though.
Yeah, to motivate, the motivation behind it is to escape poverty. But now, let's look at the real, true, big picture of life. Depression, anxiety, and all those forms of social, mental health condition are not exclusively within the poor communities alone. In fact, it's the other way around.
Yes.
So, education or training the mind of a human being should be more comprehensively focused on the outcome of having a fulfilled, happy adult in a society. It's going to be, I don't know.
That's a big one because, so you made a very good point earlier, was you asked why don't they teach about being happy in college?
Precisely, I've not seen any curriculum that specifically has a module of happiness.
And you made a good point about why that is the case.
Because they themselves are not even happy.
Yeah. They don't know. They don't have the answer to it.
They don't have the answers. You cannot teach what you don't know.
Imagine for a second if the whole education system flipped on its head and the emphasis was put on learning true happiness and peace rather than accolades acquired through academia and through success in your job and through financial status. If you could flip it, imagine how further along we'd be in the knowledge of psychology, the knowledge of happiness, the mental health of individuals, borderline like utopian sort of existence if everyone was actually operating on a level of happiness and a level of shared humanity, of just enjoying the beauty of life and having enough to get by. And see, this is the other problem then, is that you have to go to school because you have to get a job, because you have to make money, because you have to live, because you have to buy a house, because you have to provide for a family, because you have to exist. And so then how do you balance the pressures required for doing well in college and doing well in school with the importance of being happy? Because there's no point having an 80 grand a year salary in a 400,000 euro house if you're miserable and depressed. And as you said earlier, we often sort of assume that maybe mental health is for the poor people. The research is the opposite, is that the richer you are, the more your mental health deteriorates.
Yes, of course.
And that suicide is also a problem for rich people. It's not a poor person problem, which is very strange, because what happens when you sort of go down to the poor communities is what you find there is community spirit. And this sort of brotherhood between all these people which gets you to survive and gets you to push through the tough times, and you rely on those around you in your everyday life. But when you distance yourself from that community and you become more of an isolated figure, and you're more pressurized from your job, you're more cut off from your friends because you're working all the time and you only have a handful of hours every day for your family, and you feel very lonely, you feel very isolated, you may have crushing debt, and there's no resources around you. And that's why suicide is more of a rich person's problem than a poor person's problem.
Well, I mean, in as much I want to follow that, but it's a very treacherous area to go as in relation to if suicide was for the rich or for the poor. But the point we're trying to actually establish here is there is actually no direct correlation between the material acquisition and the complete fulfillment of a human being as a happy individual.
Oh, but we know, this is, again, it's almost the research is the opposite, that materialism isn't where you find happiness, and it isn't where you find true meaning and value.
So when you look at it now, Tim, you can see there's a holistic bunch of things that need to actually be readdressed. For example, what are the values we have in our society? How do we calibrate and measure our development as a people? Okay, now, from the academic definition, they say development is the general improvement of the lively well-being of the people, right? Okay, so but what do we have? What are the indicators with which we measure our development in a society? We have the GDP, the gross domestic product. What's that? How does that translate into the life of individual people? You know, so the gross domestic product of a country, for argument's sake, is X. It's fantastic, it's great. It's +1 the next year. What about the horrendous situation that people are going through in life? So we need to redefine what really growth is all about. And the whole idea that a nation continue to grow as a positive, never-ending continuum in a straight line is a flawed one. So how do you measure growth? How do you measure the success of our schools? I mean, at the end of any academic experience, the outcome of the quality of the life of the person will give us an indication of how much we want to say our educational system is good or is bad, or it need to be addressed and all that. So let's think about it. There's no single module within our academic system currently that teaches students or teenagers or adults happiness. There's none. We talk about mental health conditions every time. There are teachers who are also struggling with their own mental health conditions.
I pulled back as well. The Alan Haw case was a school teacher, well respected member of the community, big man for the GEA, murder-suicide, killed his 3 children and his wife, and himself. You
can see the situation there now. I mean, look, the teachers are doing a wonderful job. We must really give them the acknowledgement I think they deserve. Parents have kind of how will I transfer their parental responsibility back to school. These teachers are also parents themselves. They're going through the same pressure. Educational system, like I was saying a while ago, I had a situation where my own educational pursuit as adult in life was strictly motivated by, number one, the possibility of escaping abject and extreme poverty, and then number two, as a child, then I would be looking for approval, because then it's been measured as the standard with which you easily get approval, or you get acknowledgement, or you even get noticed in the first place. So these are a huge amount of pressure in the mind of young people.
What level did you go to in school back in Nigeria?
Well, I had my first degree. I had a diploma in statistics.
You completed college. Your first college course was in Nigeria. Yeah. And how do you get into college in Nigeria?
Well, our educational system is relatively similar to that of the Irish one. Okay. We have we call it the 6-3-3-4 system, 6 years primary school.
The 6-3-3-4 system.
3-3-4 system.
Okay.
During my time, I think it's still the same up till now. You have 6 years primary education and 3 years junior secondary school, which you will call the junior classes here.
Yeah.
And then 3 years senior secondary school, which you call the first leaving cert or the senior cert.
Yeah.
And then 4 years basic degree.
Okay.
So our degree will be within 4 to 6 years, depending on the case.
And do you have to get points or a certain score from your secondary level, from your second lot of 3 in order to get into a degree.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, you write Leaving Cert, where you do all the basic secondary school subjects as in maths, chemistry, physics, biology, and the rest not of things. And then you take the centralized exams, which would be like the CAO. It's called the Joint Matriculation Exams, or the JAM as they call it. It's the route way. There's a new one now they call the NECO, the Nigerian Educational. So I wouldn't really remember that acronym properly now, but it's pretty much the same thing. That you have a flat-based entry system where it's based on points to be admitted into school.
And what was your first course?
At that time, I remember I had wanted to study medicine, and at some stage I later changed my mind. In my first exam, I didn't get enough points to get me into that, and lucky enough, my dad was a lecturer at that time in the Polytechnic. He got me into the Polytechnic to study agric engineering. I didn't like it. I had a fight with it. I didn't like it, so I had to change the course myself. I went to do statistics.
Statistics was a course on its own.
Yeah.
What did it look at? Other than actual statistics, was it a particular branch of statistics? Was it economics?
No, it's a diploma course where you just dive into general statistics.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to go for the higher diploma, then you could now specialize in certain areas, maybe archery sciences or whichever area you wanted to go.
Okay.
But in my case, I didn't do that. From the diploma, I moved on to do maths with computer science at the university, and then finished up. Again, now looking back to that, I felt it wasn't for me. I was pursuing all those because it was a wave, that had been put into me to get recognition, to, get the accolade, and I was driven by all that, But I thought I should have read something else. So, and that led me into, going to having to change my course many times and essentially just looking for myself. I knew I had the ability. I never failed my exams. I knew I could go through college and do whatever I want to do. But I knew I was looking for something different. I was searching for myself. Now, if we had educational system that can actually help young people or students to actually have to search for themselves, discover this, and build upon what they are,
and to find their strengths and to encourage them to maximize their strengths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a different society today altogether, but you see, the whole educational system is not geared towards creating a comprehensive, independent, happy, joyful human being in the society. Is actually geared towards creating some kind of human machines that are meant to do certain jobs. You're trained to be an engineer. You have no business talking about humanities and talking about yourself. You even sometimes forget about yourself because the whole academic thing, you get soaked in and drawn in. And then you, of course, you can pay your bills if you had a good job. But then yet you find a sense of emptiness. Something is missing somewhere.
You see, the thing is as well, though, is that like a lot of these systems are driven off necessity. And as you said, the motivation to avoid abstract poverty, you see the similar sort of approach in China and the Asian countries, whereby success is levied heavily on how you do in college and how you do afterwards and what job you get. So obviously the more prestigious the job, the more respected the more honor you bring to your family, that kind of concept, because it's do or die in these cultures. The level of poverty is almost universal, and there's only a handful of people get out of it, and it's not out of a cruelty that they put this kind of pressure to perform educationally. From the parent side, it's necessity. And so we're in a weird kind of moment whereby we have sort of a peace time at the minute, whereby the opportunity to develop the individual is now available, where you're not required to go out and pick stones at 8 years of age and go work in the factory at 12 and provide for your family of 18. those pressures are gone, and so we're in this weird limbo where we have all this sort of free time, this opportunity to build humans, and like the concept of adolescence and teenage years, that's only in the last 100 years that's even come in to be a thing. Being a teenager was just another number. You were working all through your 11, 12, didn't matter. And so we're now kind of like, okay, well, now we'll give people the chance to finish school. So, well, first was junior cert. You had to complete your junior cert.
Right.
And then we're like, okay, no, now we need a leaving cert. So now we pushed adolescence when a human being is still considered dependent on their family, pushed to 18 years of age. You're leaving cert. After that, then it's up to yourself. Your parents legally no longer have to care for you. This is where your opportunity to get to spread your wings and fly, as it were. But now we're realizing, well, you can't pay for college without your parents. Really, really difficult to like, there are grants out there, and I massive respect for people who manage to do it on little funds, because it's very, very difficult. College is wicked expensive. That's the other thing. It's a profit-driven industry. And now we're saying, right, if we rely on parents, now adolescents kind of stretching to like 21, 22, still living at home, it's not shamed upon. And now we're still finding that even with one college course, sometimes that's not even enough to cut it. Now you have to go back and get a master's. Or even change your course altogether. So now you're talking 23, 24, 25, you're still living at home, you maybe still haven't landed your first major job. And we're realizing, like, okay, adolescence and the level of dependability from parents to children is really stretching. And then you have like scientific research coming in showing like the things like the hypothalamus isn't fully developed until 24, 25, and your decision making capabilities are really hampered until 21, 22, 23. And so now even the concept of being a minor is even beginning to stretch. And when do you fully develop as an adult? And that's been pushed out as the research comes in. It keeps getting pushed again. And so you see other cultures who haven't that luxury of taking their time and to be dependent on their parents for longer are still operating under that system where there's a huge amount of pressure and we got to perform, we got to get you up and going fast. And so it could also just be a weird sort of lull in between the two systems that you've been able to see because you've come from one culture to the other. But then the other fact is that you've got young people over here who feel they should have their lives decided by 18, 19 years of age, and they're under massive pressure, and the rise of use for antidepressants among 16, 17, 18 year olds coming up to the leaving cert, and the anxiety and the panic attacks and the suicide, that shouldn't be happening. Schools shouldn't be making children kill themselves. It was never meant to be that torturous. And so the point you made at the beginning where that education systems need a bit of a rehaul, they need a makeover, is very true. But we also have to realise we're at a really weird stage in human progression where we have all this free time and we have all this opportunity to build up on young people. And the people who are sort of ahead of the curve, they've taken this opportunity to use things like the internet and Google and this massive network that's available on your smartphone to develop themselves as individuals. And there's certain people who haven't gotten onto that sort of plane of thinking yet. And the ones who have focused on developing themselves, they're beginning to succeed. And in them succeeding, it encourages other people to go, okay, I need to work on myself. I need to teach myself how to do these skills. No one else is going to come and provide me with these skills. And so over time, we may see a rise in the number of people who take ownership of their own lives and to develop themselves even without direct assistance. Because that's the other thing the schools do, is that they make you rely on somebody else to even permission to go for a piss. You know, all these kind of little things that they condition you to think a certain way, to behave a certain way. And so when you come out, then you assume, right, someone else is going to tell me what I need to know in order to make it in this job. But that's not the case. You are expected yourself to go get a job and to get the interview and to make yourself presentable and find the information you need to do well in that. And that's not taught. That sort of autonomous instruction isn't there in people when they come out of school.
Yeah.
That's a big factor.
Yes. In fact, just to add on top of what you just said, Tim, I think I like what you said a while ago there about alternative education. I think the future of proper education on a global scale, not just in this part of the world, on a global scale, is we find more and more young adults going out for self-development. These are forms of education you don't get from the conventional institutions and colleges. And what is it they are researching for? If you go now to Google, you see one of the most searched word is depression, anxiety, happiness. Why? Because we are not trained to even understand these things in the first place. But this is the most fundamental basic education that should have been given to us in the first place.
Yeah.
Our religious institutions, I don't like to talk too much about them. It's a treacherous and slippery topic for me. I don't want to piss off my friends a lot, but and even my parents wouldn't be too proud of me talking negatively about their old long belief system. But the point is simple: the world's evolving. Everything needs to evolve. The religious educational system, as you know, is quite draconian. It's either you're a sinner or you're a saint.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either you're a candidate of heaven or hell. So you see, the prospect of going to hell is not a very elegant prospect in the mind of anyone. But you see, the society needs to evolve. We are overdue for evolution to happen.
How do you instruct your children on the topics that we've mentioned here? Because that's one of the first places that can come, is the influence in the environment and the parents.
Yes.
So when you're speaking to your own children about happiness and about being fulfilled, how do you do it?
Yeah, most of my communication and conversation with my children is usually drawn from personal experiences of life and the self-development I've been going through myself. I quickly recognize some flaws in my upbringing myself, and some of those that I felt impacted some of my activities and my decisions and choices. And there's a reason why it does happen. One of the reasons I draw up is to make sure that my own children don't have to go through those type of experiences. So I reckon the first thing I needed to do at that time was to really revisit trying to know who I am, who I was, and to redefine myself. I redefined myself and redefined some of my values. I rearranged the priorities and the values. I took economy below, and I took things like happiness and quietness and joy up above. And I put mental health and other forms of healthy things right above. And I put this whole economy thing right below. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important. But look, it's only a person who is happy and healthy that can begin to talk about all that stuff. So, and then in the process of self-development, I felt I also need to go back to study what exactly is the meaning of empathy. So that I can be able to empathize a lot with my children. It was quite beneficial for me having to really study that.
How do you mean now? Expand on empathy there for a minute. So how did empathy play into your self-development?
Okay, I'll give you an example. One Saturday, a friend called me over the phone, and he was sad from the other end, and he told me he's just broken up with his girlfriend. And he went on and on. And my immediate gut reaction was, "Hey, listen, bro, you knew it was coming anyway.
Yeah.
So there's no need to cry over the spilled milk. You want to come over for a pint of beer and stay the night in my place?" Well, it sounded really nice. He was quiet, and he eventually turned up. But I always do self-reflection after conversation. And then the next day I took time to self-reflect on the conversation, how I engaged him, and I realized that, number one, I did not adequately listen to this man to connect with his experience at that point in time. Number two, I didn't permit myself to emotionally engage with him, to know his fears, his concerns, his worries, etc. But I just skipped these two most important parts of it, and I jumped to the compassionate stage of empathy, trying to provide a solution, trying to silver line the reality of his situation, trying to give him a relief situation and bring him over to myself, which is good in itself. But that didn't adequately deal with what he wanted. It was much later I realized my man was really touched, grieved, because he felt he had invested so much time in this relationship, and it was
wasted.
wasted, and that he's rented an apartment that he shared with his girlfriend, and she's moved out, and his finances at that time could not handle that. These are real problems.
Yeah.
And I think I lacked certain knowledge at that time, to be able to properly connect with that reality that he was actually trying to communicate to me. So
that's very interesting, because when we were talking about how you were looking back through your life when it came to dealing with your children, and you were realizing there was certain blind spots that was having an impact and how you conduct yourself now, and how your relationship with your children is going forward, ties in with, I'm going through a book at the minute. It's a psychologist book. It's a child psychology. No, it's a psychologist talking about relationships between parents and children. And one of the big things is that, now, I don't know, I haven't gone into the research that she's referring to, but it draws these real long lines of connections that, as a parent, you responding to a certain child, to your child's emotions in a particular manner, is actually directly linked to how you behaved at that age, and depending on how your parents responded to you is how you've responded to your children.
Absolutely.
Now, she's linked nearly 30 years of experience here.
Yes.
More in some cases, 40 years.
Yes.
And there's a part of me going, it can't be that closely linked. It couldn't be that, because she was having it down to the minute. So, like, she was giving examples of children crying because he has to put on his coat and because it's raining outside, and so your response is, put on your coat. I'm not arguing, put on your coat, we have to go, because you're in your life, you're rushing, you've got to get to school, you've got to go places.
Right. Yeah.
And that actually what you've responded to has been incorrect, because you've forgotten what it was like to be a child at that moment. You haven't empathized with that child. You haven't connected with that child in that that moment. And the child isn't really crying because it's raining. He's crying because he's a child and he doesn't fully understand these things. And if you had taken the extra moment to be like, I know you don't like when it's raining, but the sun will come out and everything will be okay again. And even if the child doesn't immediately stop crying, over time the child has realized that his emotions have been connected to with the parent, and it settles the emotion. But if you never address that emotion, if you effectively tell the child to suppress it, oh, stop crying, it's fine, it's only rain, it doesn't matter, the emotion doesn't go anywhere. The child still has the emotion, and now he's also scared because mommy's cross, and he doesn't understand what's going on. That has a more negative impact there because of the lack of connection made through empathizing.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Like I told you, Brené Brown, I don't know if you know her. She's a great psychologist that done a lot of research in that area, and she I like this quote she has: empathy drives connection, while sympathy drives away. So without really connecting with the person's physical reality, a perspective situation of the person, the first stage, the cognitive empathy, where you actually put yourself in the person's shoes and position without judgment, without labeling what they're saying, irrespective of what they're saying, even if it doesn't make sense. It is their reality. It is their truth. So you need to respect that first by allowing them to express themselves, finding the connection, and then the next stage is to connect emotionally. But once you understand their fear, their concerns, irrespective of if it is right or not, that will be addressed much later. But you need to go on to the next one, which will be the emotional connection. And what I realize is, theoretically, we seem to know these topics. We've talked about them a lot of time, but in reality, to practice it, because we tend to be very spontaneous in our reaction. And why are we spontaneous? Because our past experiences have been built in our subconscious. We unconsciously react the way we've either been treated in the past without realizing that, look, this is just not who we are. We genuinely want to help the child or the person a lot of time, but because we skip some of the stages, which is the first one, cognitive or perspective empathy, which is to recognize the person's standpoint in their position, and then the next one to emotionally connect with the person. How do you emotionally connect with the person? How? I mean, these are practical tips. How do you emotionally connect? One of the things I found work for me is to just mentally search through my life and try to remember instances that have actually been in those positions they were in, and I'm able to invoke the emotion. I say, look, I know how it feels. I know how it feels. So once the person tends to feel a sense of connection with you, you build trust, their confidence rises up, they know they have someone to fall back to, and they are more open to want to go further in discussing what is at hand. And then from that point, you go to the next one, which is the affectionate stage of empathy, or the compassionate stage, where you now begin to work out possible solutions and all that stuff. But then you've already built trust and respect. And more importantly, the very first stage, where you physically connect with a person, what you're actually unconsciously or indirectly doing as well, is you're helping the person to build their self-esteem. Because when you begin to listen to them, they feel that, wow, it seems to appear that what I'm saying makes sense. That this person really listened to me. You know, so we all want to be listened to. But unfortunately, you know, parenting is a very tricky thing. And while I don't want to blame parents too much, but I think parents could help themselves in what I mentioned at first, self-development. Because, you know, I mean, no one is taught to be a parent. You just have a child and you're stuck with the child, and that's it.
That's a big one as well, is the fact that no one's actually taking the time to explain to future parents what it's like. You know, and you learn on the job.
You know, it's on the job learning process, being a parent. But the first thing is you really have to really want to learn. You really have to also first acknowledge that you don't know everything in this thing. And you really have to demonstrate that you really want to improve on this, right?
I would like to come back as well to where, when you're empathizing, an important one about saying, I know what you're going through, is that you draw on an example, though, that is similar to what they're talking about. Because that's actually a dangerous one to say, I know what you're going through. Because if you don't, or the person perceives that you're bullshitting them, like, it will draw a bigger wedge, it will drive a bigger wedge between you. So for example, if you're sitting with someone we'll take an extreme one, whose parent has just died, and you still have both your parents, and you may have even 4 grandparents, you can't look that person and go, I know what you're going through, because you don't.
Yeah, of course.
Shut your mouth. You've no authority to even remotely connect with these people. And that's where some people crumble, is on the real extreme cases where there's a real trauma and they don't know what to do, and they either go completely dumb or they say something stupid, and then the situation gets worse and they work it up in their head, etc. And in the cases that you really don't know, the best thing to say is, I can't even begin to understand what you're going through. I don't know what to say to you in this moment. All I can possibly say to you, man, is anything you want to tell me, I'm not going to judge you on it. I'm here to just talk you through it. If you want to tell me what you're feeling, the raw emotions of what you're feeling, I'm going to listen. But you've gone through a horror greater than anything I can come up with. And so as a result, I'm not even going to try. And in doing that too, what you've kept there is honesty, and that will work towards the empathizing with the person, because they will still build up that trust that you refer to. So even if they're not able to look at you and say, you've been through the same thing as me, we have that in common, we'll go forward together, they'll look at you and say, well, here's a person who isn't going to try and lie to me, isn't going to try and cod me, and is genuinely taking me seriously. You can still build that trust. I wanted to make that point, but what's crazy here is the similarities between what we're discussing with empathizing with adults and what she talks about with empathizing with children. Is that even if the emotional response of the child is totally irrational, and as an adult you're like, I can't believe I have to listen to this, by going through the emotion with the child learns that the parent is willing to discuss with them and take them seriously. And what can happen is that the child will trust the parent and will continue to talk through their emotions with the parent as the child gets older, and they actually build very emotionally strong children. For example, there was a study in California back in 1980 something, where a psychologist was planning to he was looking to analyze the emotional distress caused by coming to primary school on young children. But at the time that he was going to go through the study, there was an earthquake.
Wow.
And they originally were like, okay, we can't go ahead with this plan. But then they kind of flipped and were like, okay, let's actually find out how the kids responded to the earthquake. So they changed up their study so they focused on the emotional consequence of the earthquake on the children.
Right.
And so they got all the children to draw pictures of the earthquake and the effect.
Yeah.
And some of the kids drew smiling faces around the earthquake and on all happy life, and other kids drew sad faces and distressing scenes and were clearly unhappy, and they portrayed it in their drawing. They studied these children over the next I'm not sure the time scale, it was fairly significant, and they found that the children who drew the smiley and laughing faces, who clearly hadn't been addressing the emotions correct, had more illnesses and more school absences over the time frame that was studied than the children who drew the sad faces. And they drew a correlation that the emotional acceptance of the events that occurred, that the correct emotional acceptance of the events that occurred built up the children's immune systems. So it had a physiological benefit to the children by dealing with their emotions properly. And so by talking through the emotions with a child, the long-term benefits are argued to be why you bother talking through with a child. And that by telling a child, no, it's silly, don't talk like that, or you don't need to discuss that, that's silly talk, you damage the child, and the child won't trust you in the future to come to you as a parent with, I've got this problem, I've got that problem. They'll become more enclosed, they'll become more emotionally unstable, and they'll become more isolated in their own head. And it was a very scary consequence that she was laying out was going to occur. But what we're talking about here is with adults, and it's the exact same.
Yeah. I mean, who are adults? Adults are children who will become grown-ups. That doesn't mean because you become grown-up, the traits you had is just disappeared and into the oblivion. No, it doesn't happen that way. You see, the point is a lot. It's a multifaceted thing, but I can encapsulate this whole thing in one single line. Instead of conversation, we tend to have instructions to children.
Yes.
You see, we tend to have instructions to children.
Yeah.
And what's the outlook of an instruction? It's usually from a superior moral high ground, or from superior boss to a less person somewhere. But you see, the language, the atmosphere in which we deal with our children creates their reality. If you treat them as young people as they are, but you let them realize that what they say and their opinion though matters a lot and it's important to you. If you want to have that kind of a thing, you're not going to be instructing, you're going to be having conversation. Seek their opinion. How do you feel about this? What do you think is this? Never make assumption to say, oh, I know how you feel. Oh, yeah. No, ask them, what do you feel? Let them express it in their little language. But make sure you actively, effectively listen to them because they are watching you. You know the expression, I lean on you. Would you ever lean on someone that you suspect is going to move away in any second unpredictably?
No.
You won't do that. So when you build such kind of channel of communication and conversation with children, and the same with adults, it's just the same formula.
And that's what it is.
It's the same formula. It hasn't really changed. You know, you build that confidence that they know that, look, I can trust the team to listen to my crap without judgment. You know, I can see team is genuinely emotionally connected with my situation. And therefore, I can trust team to want to engage me in a possible solution to this. But if you're otherwise, they'll just shut in and shut you out of their lives. They'll just be there, and that goes the same for adult. In fact, that's why I told you before, I'm working on a piece of project that emphasizes on communication skills, because communication is fundamental and core to this whole thing.
How do you mean now you're doing a project on communication skills?
Yeah, I have a product, a commitment that I'm trying to roll out in not too much of a long distance from now. It's going to be targeting mostly young people on how to properly communicate, because this whole thing we're talking about, if you reflect a little bit, you notice that the children want to be happy, the teachers want the children to be happy, the parents want the children to be successful and happy, and then what's going on, what's wrong, what's going on somewhere? There's no communication happening, you know? There's simply no communication, because if you look at this core objective of every party concerned, is for a positive outlook. So why do we have different outcome?
Give me a rundown of the aspects of communication that you're looking at.
You see, again, we're going to start from being young people. It's easy to always talk about the young people, because sometimes I feel guilty in my mind when I talk about young people. I used to be young myself, and when I think about you talking about young people, I say, okay, maybe because young people are so defenselessly dead.
Yeah, they're easy targets.
Easy target, and we just throw everything. And let's reflect. Older generation seems to have the constant behavior of blaming the younger generation of everything that goes wrong in the society.
Yeah.
But the older generation forgot that they created the present.
They built the society.
They built the society. And then they turn around and say, you young people, oh, you should be doing that. In my time, I never did that. Oh, no, and that. This is very unfair. We are creating history. We are creating the future generation. So the judgment of the Lord will start in the house of God. If we want to judge the younger generation, let's start with ourselves. How dare you criticize the younger generation when you know in yourself you have not put in the necessary ingredients or necessary things to build a more better society you wish to see in the younger people? So what I'm saying here is communication has become completely even absent in the lives of even adults.
And what sort of communication? Because we do communicate. We tell people what we got up to for the day. We tell people our plans. We tell people our hopes and dreams. What aspect of communication do you think we're lacking?
You see, without effective connection, there's no communication. So we do communicate like you rightly said, but is there any connection in the communication?
It's superficial.
It's very, very superficial. We are not genuine. And it's not because we want to be that. It's because we were just simply not taught the skills. Communication is not inherently born. They are skills that need to be learned. For example, I've spent about 15, 18, 19, 20 odd years teaching in Ireland in a classroom of about maybe 20 nationalities all the time. I taught at the University of Limerick as well with different nationalities. So now
you could have up to 20 nationalities in one classroom. Yes, of course,
in one single classroom when I was teaching English language. Yeah. So you have a diverse cultural perspective to deal with.
Yeah.
And the communication styles from these different perspective, this cultural perspective, are quite different. But thank God, there is a single unitary conversational skill for every human being that is available for us to use, even to your pets. Connection. Are you just talking for talking's sake, or are you finding the connection, the cognitive or the perspective connection, the emotional or affectionate connection, or the compassionate connection in relation to the core subject you're talking about? So connection is the key thing that helps us to get the effective communication through. How do you do that? First step, effective listening. If you don't listen, you're just a dictator. You know, you just dictate to people around, you know. So you lost the first opportunity of listening to establish communication, connection through that. And then the next one is emotional. Oh, I've heard some people, when I was growing up, say, oh, Theo, come on, be like a man, don't cry. Come on, be like a man. What does that mean? I'm a human being with emotions. I can feel you.
Yeah.
I can feel your tears. I can feel your pain. Why do I want to be like a man? Not to feel your pain? Because we are scared of being vulnerable. Or we are trying to live up to the idealized picture of what a real adult or man should be, so you don't want to be seen as emotional weakness, being emotional weak. So, but all these are necessary tools to help us to build our emotional muscles, our spiritual muscles, and our compassionate muscles. Because whether you like it or not, no matter how elegantly placed you are, or how advantageous choice person you think you are currently, you're going to face the very permanent, constant reality of the human race, which is change. When change comes, how are you going to respond? If you have not built your emotional muscles, what are you going to do? So you see, based on this, I said, okay, look, I need to work on myself. And as I continue to work on myself, and I'm enjoying the experience of discovering all these things. And I have a huge privilege to have teenage children around me and friends around me. I can begin to practice these things because, look, science research have suggested to us that only 20% of the human race actually have the tendency and the inherency to become empathetic. So the other 80% out there actually have no clue. They're good people. It's not that they're bad people. It's just that it's just one of those skills, just you learned mathematics, English, chemistry, etc., that we need to learn. And not just theoretically learning these skills, but finding opportunity to put them to practice. You see what I'm saying there?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's how bad it is. I mean, let's look at this whole thing from a much wider global perspective. Empathy. Let's bring it home. Let's bring it home, team. Come on, let's bring it home. We are in the time. I mean, we're currently in the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, COVID-19. I hear some strange strains and all that coming up different parts of the corners.
Yeah.
As we speak, the EU, elegant, unified, sub-regional power, they're fighting themselves as to who gets what quota of vaccines or not. Where's the compassion that we talk about?
It's absent.
Where is the empathy we talked about?
Absent.
Okay, we constantly look at risks versus advantage. How much is it going to cost us to save this life?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we talking about? So you see, we cannot collectively build a society and change a society in a go, but I of the opinion that the family is the smallest unit of a society. And if you want these good things we just mentioned in a society,
It has to start in the family.
you have to put it in your family. Before you put it in your family, you got to put it in yourself.
Yeah.
So, like Gandhi said, let you be the change you wish to see.
Yeah.
So, what I'm trying to say is there's a conscious decision by me to pursue this next phase of my self-development by trying to first address the question of empathy. I know I'm not a bad person, but I want to be a better person, and understanding empathy and practicing empathy will not only make you a better human being, you become a huge social and psychological resource person to your loved ones and friends around you. You build trust, and you generally impact lives positively, and you will experience a sense of fulfillment right inside you. It's not about you feeling good. It's about the fact that you have set out for yourself that this is the next part of development I want to pursue, and this is how I'm going to measure myself. It's not going to come magically from somewhere. It's a practice. We have to put it into our lives, seizing every opportunity to practice empathy, even to our pets, they wouldn't say anything to us. They have their own challenges. How do you empathize? I think that's what's grossly missing. When you look at a student now preparing, I have 2 girls now preparing for their school cert, and each time I call them to talk with them, I can feel from the other end the pressure they're really going through. So much stress, but I'm here helplessly. I wish I could do something different. So, but at the moment, the only thing I can probably do right now is to constantly put myself in their shoes, to try to imagine what feeling it is they're trying to describe to me in their own language. I don't always get it right, but I consciously try to see that I do the best I can, and then emotionally engage them. And once I notice that we tend to be on the same page, and I'll ask them, look, what do you think? What do you think I can do to help the situation? And sometimes the response is, I don't know, right? I don't know. And I say, listen, hey, it's okay not to know. I never knew everything.
So this is one of the big things you can do, is you can remind them that there's a bigger world out there, and you can do your bit to relieve some of the pressure, so that they won't look at a phone call from you and go, oh, here he is going to lecture me about doing well, about performing, about getting the best results. I don't even want to answer that phone. If you can have it so that when they see you calling, they go, oh, thank God, I need a break from this. Hey, Dad, you've done your job. Because they're looking to you for comfort, for empathy, for connection that they're not getting, and they won't get it in any other avenue. And I think that's one of the things you can do, is you have experience and a knowledge that they don't have yet. And the one thing you can do is not add to their stress and to their experience.
Yes, I totally agree with that as well. I mean, look, we live in a very unforgiving society now.
Oh yeah.
So
one mistake is enough to write you off these days.
We live in a very unforgiving society, and I mean, look, young people are not looking for your money first off to start with. That's the mistake parents make sometimes. They think it's all about providing all the material needs for the parent. This is important, but what is more important is the inner self, because there's nothing worse in life that can happen to any human being than to lose touch with himself, to lose yourself, to lose yourself. So, I mean, we need to redefine what is the meaning of success. If you call an average adult now, what is success to you? You're going to hear everything they're going to say. I've been doing...
And a lot of it will be material based.
It's mostly material. Look, I've been having this conversation over time, just trying to accumulate information and data for what I'm trying to do. And I've spoken to a lot of adults. And one of my popular questions is always, what is success to you? And I look at the long list: to get a nice job,
cars,
get the boyfriend or the husband, get married, have the babies, and get a car and have this business and all that stuff. And strangely and interestingly enough, their happiness and joy and peace and quietness always at the bottom of their long list of their bucket wish. Why is that happening? What's going on? We have all been unconsciously programmed by our society to a very skewed definition of what success really is. What is success? So there's a need to redefine those things and try to put it into your children, or the young ones around you. All that is required of you as a human being is your best. It's not to a standard. And it's an individual journey. Your experience and your journey is completely different from that person. Whatever it is that resonates and feels good with you. And by the way, listen, at 18 years of age, from the definition of an adult, how are you expected to know all these huge, big topics of life?
Yeah.
So we need to make allowance and provision for those things like failure, mistakes.
Yes.
We need to stop demonizing those experiences in the lives of people.
That's one thing we can definitely do. We can alter at that particular age. We can take the pressure out at that point.
Let's give an example in the grading system in schools. You have A, H1, H2, whichever grade it is, goes down all the way, and then you have the whatever was the last one again? I don't even know it.
You fail, and then you
fail, right?
I think fail is the bottom one. There used to be another one.
I was a champion in that group, man. I failed a lot of time, man. Yes, I failed a lot of time, and now I look back to my failure and I smile at it. It wasn't a failure; it was a journey.
Yeah.
But those things put me down for a long time, and this fear grips the mind of young people a lot. So, what about for hypothetical imaginary change in our educational system? We said instead of failure, we could just say repeat.
They do say that now. So you repeat exams in college.
Well, in college, you repeat exams in college, but it's not as if, it's like the priest who gives out to you and say, "Oh, go, your sins are forgiven." But he keeps an eye on you. You better be careful. I'm watching you.
Yeah, because you're also capped as well. You can't.
And then you're capped.
Yeah.
That's a quiet, silent punishment from behind, all in the name of justice and equity.
Yeah.
We need to change all this crap and get back to the basics and deal with the human soul with the honor and the dignity they deserve as free human being to enjoy life here and stop making machine and ridicule out of our human being. Because Tim didn't pass mathematics, so he's a failure in life. Is that it?
That's the phrase, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, you'll always assume it's stupid.
Of course. Of course. We need to change. And again, this whole too much of... Look, okay, let me put it this way. I turn it the other way around. Children don't play enough.
Yes.
They don't play enough. We have seen we are missing a huge opportunity in playing as an educational process.
Yeah.
Playing is part of a child development.
Yes, it's how they learn.
Yes.
When things break, when things fall over,
yes,
how things move, their subconscious is absorbing every last bit of information.
Precisely. And what do we do with it?
We
don't take good advantage of playing as a learning process. And listen to the other more damning part. As you go through life, you're getting older, and then I'm an adult now.
I don't play anymore.
And even when you attempt to play, some people call it a caution. Oh, come on, Tim, be a big boy.
Yeah, grow up.
Grow up, man.
Be a man.
Be a man. Stop being like a child. The child is the criminal that must not be like. Look, playing is supposed to be a whole lifelong experience of humanity. In fact, personally, I've come to discover that my best moment most of the time in my adult age is when I allow the child in me to come out.
Which is a lot, I see.
That's the way I connect with my children.
Yeah.
I like the little child in me to come out.
You tap into that resource in order to connect with your children.
The other day I went to the park with my 18-year-old, and it had just rained, and we were walking down in the woods there in Carrickline, and it became so cold, and I said, "Hey, me, come over here," and she came over, and I started stomping and jumping in. Those little these puddles of water. Yeah. She was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "Come on, let's jump, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it." And before I knew, she joined me.
You got her. You got her to come in.
And that was it. We created a platform. And we had topics to talk about.
Yeah.
2 summers ago, before the pandemic, we went to, what do you call it again? Where do you have the Ringaskidi?
Yeah.
We just went there just for, an hour to walk. We just walk. And suddenly it was so sunny, and I couldn't resist the temptation of peeling off my clothes to jump into the water. And I thought about it for a while. I tried to hold back. And I said, but look, why not? I took off my clothes, I jumped inside, and I encouraged them, "Come on, join me. And they wouldn't come at first. And before I knew, we're all inside, and we're all soaked wet with no towel, no nothing. And I said, what nonsense have I done now, God? Their mom is going to kill me. So we drove up to Lidl and got some fresh clothes, cheap ones to buy so that they can change the ones in them. You see, these are simple, basic things that keep us as humans.
Yeah.
Reminds us we are human, we're not machine. You know.
Yeah.
So yes.
When you get those free moments to break out, and the other thing is that those are the days that you look back on with fondness. And if you have 10 years, 5 years, even 1 year, some of the only things you'll remember out of the year are the good moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was to think even in the last 11 months, Corona, there's 3 points, boom, straight into the head. Being able to be at home back in Clonmel with no job requirements and the beautiful weather that was there. It's the first thing that hits my head. Then there was a savage night. There was a very simple, me, Gino and Sean, there was a bonfire. It was a real relaxed night.
Oh, by the way, Jim and John, those are your friends, right?
No, Gino and Sean. Yeah, they're my mates.
All right,
Gino
okay.
I live with, and Sean, he's my best mate from birth.
All right,
like.
Sean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we just had a real simple night around a barbecue one night, and it was savage. Highlight of the year. It was just so clean and fun and just simple. It was just simple. Just three boys mucking around, burning stuff, just just relaxing on a savage night. And there was a beautiful clear sky. We took out the telescope, man. We saw the rings of Saturn. We saw the moons of Jupiter. Real good images of the moon. It was a beautiful clear night, and it was unreal. And it was just simple exploring space, exploring what burns, exploring what happens when you set this on fire. It was effectively playing as adults, just mucking around.
Yes.
And it was brilliant. It was brilliant, man.
Yes.
And they're the sort of moments you will remember, are the real fun ones, when you let down the adult guys and just sort of allow that inner child to sort of have a bit of fun for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's no reason when you stop and you sort of look back why you don't connect with that child more. You can't really get a concrete reason.
Oh.
Like it's something like, I didn't want to seem stupid. Well, no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the only one. What does that mean? What do you mean only one?
Yeah, but I mean, Tim, look, let's reflect again. Like I said at some stage in this conversation we're having with you, that we live in a very judgmental and unforgiving society currently, right?
There was a purpose for that, though, because through the judgment you bettered society. But the problem is when it's left unchecked and it's this overdrive where everything you view is judged, and it's an automatic.
How do you mean a better society?
Like judging. Right. Say, for example. Okay, say you're around a prospective employer, and if you on a real sunny day you happen to meet them, if you jump into the ocean with your clothes on in front of your prospective employer, he's going to judge you as being impulsive, as being maybe a little bit irresponsible. He can't fully trust you, and so from a business perspective, you're a liability that he probably won't go with, and so the judgment in that case is serving a function to him. Now you could come back with your own rationale about why you did consider your actions, and this is why you don't think it was what he thinks. But all that matters is he's looking out for himself, and so judging is a measure of keeping yourself safe or protecting what you care about. And so you need to be able to judge to a degree. The problem is when you allow those judgments to be based on bias or based on something real superficial, that you just don't like this person, you don't like this behavior, and as a result you condemn it. And that's what a lot of like if you want to allow your inner child to muck around, people will condemn you for that for reasons they mightn't be able to put a finger on. Or it's just not orderly, it's not mannerly, or it's not masculine, or it's not feminine, or whatever it be. And so that's when judgments begin to serve a disservice to everyone involved.
You know, I respect those opinions, Tim, but I hold strongly that even the vocabulary judgment is a negative vocabulary. It's very uninspiring. Doesn't bring anything positive out of anyone. The word judging, because the ultimate outcome of judgment is to have saints and demons. So you see, so the idea of judging anyone for whatever reason anyone claim I am not a great subscriber to that.
Okay.
You know, I believe because the ultimate outcome of judgment is that you're going to find someone guilty or not. So who should have the prerogative or the right to judge the other person? Why should I enslave my life to someone else because of fear of being judged? Isn't that the same thing we're trying to run away from, the religious institutions that judge us? So what is absolute total freedom? What is freedom? Freedom of expression. So long as my expression of myself does not hurt you, and the expression of yourself don't hurt me, we joyfully enjoy the expression together, man. You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's a good point.
You know, so I think, you know, judgment should not really be tolerated within our civil society. We should leave the idea of judgment within the confines of our constitutional and court houses for, you know, abject criminal misdemeanor or misbehavior.
Yeah.
But for God's sake, man, let's talk about the everyday human life. Why would you want to waste your time looking for me to judge me? But I tell you one thing. Anyone who decides to spend his time trying to study me to judge me is never going to graduate. You know, because I have made a conscious, honest decision to be myself and to enjoy the fullness of my life in whatever circumstance I find myself. That my happiness and joy has no direct correlation with the amount of resources I have in my hand, but the quality of the inbuilt resource I have inside me. I've also reminded myself that I live in a society, in a world where I have the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would constantly be judged because those people who are judging me themselves are victims of those judgment. So I will not allow myself, you know, to conform to them. Because you see, look, Tim, institutions, be it religious or political, their single objective is to conform you to a system. To conform you. But self-discovery actually releases you from the shackles and the chains of the judgment of the society.
Interesting. I see.
You know?
Yeah, I get. So, do you think that people should ever have to defend their actions? If their actions didn't hurt anybody, people should never be challenged on why they made a decision in their personal life.
Again, the word challenged. You could ask to be informed. It's different from challenging me. For example, if I'm a vegetarian, or if I was a vegan, or a meat eater, whichever it is I belong to, why should I waste my time trying to explain to you why I don't eat meat? To what benefit is it to our relationship? And if you are genuinely that interested to want to wonder why I don't eat meat, I suppose you can either join me or just in a friendly and polite manner try to get a bit more information as to why I don't eat meat from a very friendly, you know, interactive conversational tone. But not coming around and maintaining a high moral ground and challenging me and questioning me about that. The law is simple. The law of humanity, the universal law of humanity is treat others just the way you wish to be treated. But that doesn't mean if you've been treated bad, you want to treat me bad. I'm not going to take responsibility for your bad experiences, you know?
Yeah.
You see, we all feel fear. We all want to be respected. We all want to be enabled. We all have imagination of those good things of life that we want, especially that idea of freedom. You know, to be who you are, express who you are in a good way without impacting other people negatively in any shape or form. If that is what you want as a human being, why are you unwilling to give it to your neighbors? Do you see what the point I'm trying to make here? If that's what you want as a father, you want to be respected and appreciated, that's good. Are you willing to give that to your children? Until and unless we're willing to give to other human beings of equals like us what you feel and deserve is good for them, you have no right to want to claim to want to have any of those things. That's what I think about it.
You've made very, very good points there. I agree with you. And see, this is the interesting thing is that I would agree with you 100% until I think of an example in my head that I actually disagree with on a moral level.
Okay.
And then I go, no, judging, yes, I judge that person. And then I have to catch myself and be like, no, you cannot judge that person. And so it's interesting how there's such a deeply ingrained automatic response for judging people that it's hard to identify, it's hard to control. And so then it's a task. You have to actively pursue judge-free thoughts and be able to analyze your thoughts and to work out whether that comes from a place of judgment or from a place of a genuine concern for people's well-being. Because you see, the argument always comes up with drug use. Should drugs be legalized / decriminalized? The argument for that is very strong from a sociological perspective, is that it is actually better for the individual if they're able to deal with their issues on a legal footing. And if they want to use and you always have to think of the stronger drugs like heroin or crack cocaine or meth, you say no, those ones should stay criminalized. They're bad for society. All right, but people use them, and because they use them and they're illegal, they're shut out of society. They can't seek help for it. They can't address maybe some of the deeper psychological issues that drew them into the substance abuse in the first place. And so you have to say, right, well, maybe we'll look at a concept of legalizing all drugs. So okay, grand. But then, for example, looking at the Irish issue, the influence of the church criminalising homosexuality, one of the arguments there is that it's not hurting anybody. If the individuals want to express it, why is it such a big deal for you? Why do you have to prevent these people from being who they really are? And so the two arguments do work in unison, but you could have someone who's pro-legalizing drugs who's anti-legalizing homosexuality, and they may have in their head, they may be like, oh, of course, this is for the betterment of society, this is for the future, this is why I'm against this. And so even if you said to that person, you need to work out, are you judging these people in not an evil manner but in a selfish manner? And they're going to say, no, I'm not. It's a social position. It's for people's health and well-being and for future family. And so even within this, people will rationalize themselves out of the hot seat. And if you were trying to get to people to watch where they're judging and when they're not, they'll find a way of worming themselves out of that sort of that's firing line in their own heads. And then people don't see themselves as judging. Yeah. And so it's a very difficult one, because if these people don't see themselves as judging, they look at you and they say, oh, I agree with Theo, yeah, this is exactly how we should go forward. But they never address how they behave. Well, I'm not a judge though. I don't judge people. Yeah. When I disagree with someone, it's because they're wrong. But it's hard to break through to that deeper sort of psychological position where the individual takes responsibility for themselves. Yeah. And for their thoughts.
Yeah, I think you made a number of points there, Tim. First, you mentioned about from the moral point of view. Now, I have a big question: whose morality?
And that's
we have so many morality. Yeah, the standard of your morality might be so high for me that I cannot keep up with it. I think the fundamental thing is within the confines of the law. Am I impacting you negatively or not? Am I affecting your well-being and your safety? If I'm not doing any of those things, then you can keep your morality to yourself where you want it to be. We live in a society of laws. We have a collective agreement on certain rules and regulations that guide our society, and that's the most paramount for me. I think need to be reflected upon. And those people who say, "Oh, look, I'm not judging them because of this. I'm judging them because they are wrong." That's arrogating themselves and appropriating to themselves some sense of power and authority to have a higher moral standard than you and judge you. I've heard instances where people say, you know what, Theo, I am not racist, but. And I said, okay, look, my friend, the but summarizes everything. You're not racist, but what? But what? You see, this is where, again, I repeat, communication. It might be possible that the person who used those sentences like, I am not racist, but, was actually not a racist person. The person might be suffering from deficiency of language to express what they think in their head. So I want to make that escape for those who are not in the group of the racist one. Yeah. They might be suffering from deficiency of language or how to organize their thought. Because speech and conversation, they are acts. You craft them in such a tactful manner, being very conscious of those who are listening and their own perspective where they stand. Your intention is not to lose people, but to gain them, right? So I think that's one of the thing. And then the other thing about criminalizing or legalizing drug, I don't feel intensely qualified to be able to talk about the scientific and sociological perspective of legalizing or not legalizing. But one thing I can also tell you for sure is the anti-drug law is making more damage than good. First, to start with, there's so much legalistic situation attached to these type of things, what the government unconsciously do is to create an artificial market, the black market for the criminals. And what do we have in that? We have drug lords and criminal gangs fighting themselves, feuding and killing themselves, etc., etc. And secondly, we don't know exactly the type of quality of the shit that goes around in society. So I think the government need to stop just being the police of stopping the drug, but to actively get involved, even to a point, in my opinion, manufacturing and distributing these drugs. At least we know what's out there.
The damage is minimized.
You know? And then the other approach that I think need to also probably be reflected upon is, is the proper understanding of drug use. For me, I'm not a professional like I told you, but this is my judgment and my thoughts. Every time you see a person commit suicide, every time you see a person goes for drug or other hard substances, this is a quiet cry for help. We should stop incarcerating them and demonizing them, but really step in to help them. What makes a person go into hard stuff? Have we taken a look at what the circumstances in the person's life?
Empathize.
Yes. Now, I'm not talking about those who are making money out of the unfortunate people who are having the struggles, because let's be fair, the big drug dealers are never arrested. They're somewhere hiding in some penthouses somewhere. They make all the money. They take advantage of the loophole the government have not properly articulated to address, and they make money out of it. But each time I see or hear of someone just committed suicide, or Mr. X is on heroin, or Miss B is on crack cocaine, for me, I think this is cry for help. It could be help for their self-esteem. It could be help to escape the challenges they have in their homes and family or society. So, I mean, there's a need for us to look at these laws that have long outlived its time.
And that's the other aspect then, what you're working into is reading between the lines and looking deeper, which ties back in with communication and the non-verbal communications, and teaching people the skills to read non-verbal communications and to be able to see to a deeper level without needing to ask the questions. So when you see John choosing heroin over choosing staying with his family, you think, oh, that choice makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. So there's an issue here. There's something clearly that's controlling John's decision of which way he goes. And so you automatically have a view into the deeper psychological state of John without needing to ask him any questions. If you have people with the skills to decipher people's actions, you will create a stronger workforce. Like if you had police trained to a standard of non-verbals a lot of aggression, a lot of police brutality, a lot of instances that didn't need to arise could be mitigated. Because you can preempt how someone's going to behave based on things they haven't even told you yet. But when you're talking about the communications that you're writing on, that you're studying, what are the skills? What are techniques people can use in their own world? Because if we're looking at there's such a small percentage of people have that ability to empathize with people and have the skills necessary, what are some of those skills? How can people who maybe think they don't have those skills, how can they build them? What are they looking? What areas do they need to focus on?
As in communication, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, what is communication? Communication is not just talking to you. It's connecting with you. And why do we have this lack of connection? Because the normal development of the society have really changed. Now, people hide behind their laptops and their mobile phones and their smartphones, having 1,000 friends on social media platform, and yet don't have a single friend that come to meet them. And even when they meet people, they cannot sustain a conversation for 3 minutes. What's going on? It's lack of self-esteem. That's one. So we have to build the self-esteem. They feel powerful when they hide behind those things. Human beings are not meant to be like that. We're changing our lives slowly and quietly. So that's one. The other one, again, like I said, or the first one, like I said, is actually, understanding that you cannot communicate with me if you're not able to listen to me. And that's the other one. And then two, that it's very difficult to influence somebody you're talking at. Instead of talking with them.
And that ties in with listening.
Yeah, that ties in with listening as well. And then what's the next thing? That when you're listening, you should try to understand why you're listening. What are you listening to? There are some people, when you're talking, as soon as you say something, they have a response. They want to give a rebuttal straight away because they are not interested in the bullshit you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a debate for them.
Yeah. They're listening to respond rather than listening to hear what the person saying.
Not listening to understand. You see, so those are skills that I think are, apparently missing in our society.
The listening in particular, because listening has a very funny effect on people. If you give someone your ear and they genuinely feel listened to, they will return to you like a dog looking for a treat. And it's mad the impact it has, because people feel not listened to so often that when they get a little bit of it, it has a very, very interesting effect. And I've seen it happen, that people maybe who maybe they don't have that many friends, or they're not socially active or whatever, when they get one person who listens to them, it changes them. Even on a confidence level, all of a sudden, this one person has boosted their ego and their happiness and their contentment.
Yes, absolutely. Like, again, what does it mean to be a human being? If being a Homo sapien is enough to define you as a human being, then we're lacking something, right? So, I mean, one of the very shared commonality of every human being is to be appreciated, to feel that sense of importance. And the easiest and quickest way to do that is to listen to what they're saying. And when you do listen to people when they're talking, you are unconsciously switching on a deep inherent human trait we all have, which is to return appreciation back. So the moment I feel listened to, I feel respected, and I quietly, deep in my heart, I want to give you back that respect. So once that transaction is beginning to take place, we're building something beyond the realm of the everyday society. So it always starts from there. Connection. If I don't feel some sense of connection with you, Tim, I wouldn't be here right now. You see what I mean? I mean, we're in the COVID period. You and I, we've been talking over the phone for some time. We know the precautions we've all taken. In fact, we should have had this conversation about more than a month ago.
Yeah.
But we took all necessary precautions.
We did, yeah.
Collectively and jointly, in a respectful manner. We talked so openly to ourselves. I listened to you. You listened to me. It gave me the courage and confidence to be here. If any of that stage is missing,
this wouldn't have happened.
Then it becomes something else.
Yeah.
You know. So yes, again, that's the thing. Communication is really missing. It's missing, and the reason why we don't have communication a lot pervading our society is because it's just simply not in our curriculum of development. Even the teachers in schools are finding it very difficult, excruciating sometimes to express themselves properly to their students. And when you go, sometimes you find some of them are instructive and dictatorial or authoritative.
Because they don't know anything else.
Because they instruct. That's bullish behavior.
That's a safe position for them. If you don't know how to do something, the easiest way is just to batten down the hatches. Just this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to budge for anything. So if you don't know how to connect emotionally with your class, you won't even try. You'll just talk at them, and whatever their responses are, you ignore, and you just plow on with your lecture. And what's worrying is that due to this lack of communication between parents and teachers and children, one of the ways of not resolving it, just fill them with drugs.
I tell you one experience I had, Tim. This is just very interesting now.
Yeah.
I'll quickly drop that to you. One of the first job I did in this country when I first arrived, I don't want to mention names or places now, just for the sake of respect of where I worked before. I like to respect such places. I had an instance one night. I was on night duty, and I had this very annoying supervisor. He would stand right behind me and breathe over my head while I walk. I felt I had a gun on my head each time I walked. I hated going to work. He drove me really mad to a point. And I tried to be his friend as much as I could. Every opportunity I saw, I said, okay, look, maybe I could make this guy to like me a little bit and just stop micromanaging my life every night. And no, it was in his nature. I feel sorry for him. He was my boss, but I still feel sorry for him because he exposed his anguish and his tribulations and situation glaringly, openly within the junior staffs. But the point is, he was always behind me. He was on the power play, and I had to say to him one day, we had a meeting in the night, and I said, excuse me, sir, I think I was giving an opinion, and he dismissed me halfway in my speech. He said, Theo, listen to me. Part of your job is not to think or to give opinion. I will ask for it when I need it. I am the night manager here, and your job is to take instructions. Now, this is the instruction for the night. You know? And I felt sorry for him. He was my boss, but I felt really sorry for him.
That's a mature position, because most people would just feel a burning anger, and they'd leave that.
Yes, I felt it. I felt the burning rage inside me, but I knew as well that I cannot make myself look bad. So what I decided to do is I decided to quit the job. I didn't even wait till the next morning. I said to him, I said, sir, it's obvious you're the boss here. It's known. Everyone know you're the boss. You don't need to remind me that, sir. But, sir, listen, I need you to keep this job and get someone else to do the job. Thank you, sir. And I walked away. And that was it.
What was his reaction?
Yeah, he was lost. He didn't know what to say. I got invited the next day by the HR. Very lovely lady, Jordan. She tried to troubleshoot the situation. And I told her, Jordan, listen, as much as you have expressed to me, and I deeply appreciate your effort and your concern and your respect as well for me. But listen, Jordan, no two family friends go to the court and come back home the next day to have dinner together. It's over. Can't come back. You know? So you see, why did it happen? It's just simply because of lack of communication. And by the way, when I talk about communication, I'm not talking about just communication between two parties, A and B. I'm also talking about your internal self-communication. What do you tell yourself? How do you communicate with yourself? Because those internal self-communications you have are going to be the bedrock of your reality. If, for example, you are in there telling yourself how bad you are, how very unsuccessful you were, or how you cannot achieve this and how you cannot, you will talk yourself into that situation. Or if you allow yourself to be moved and drunk with your ego, how powerful you are, how the best you are, how everyone need to be that and that, you're going to lose friends. So communication actually starts from the inside of you before you engage the other party. Let me give you an example. Tim just said to me, "Oh, Theo, Theo, look, my car is with the mechanic. I don't know how I'm going to go about it. Look, I'm so broke and all that thing." And I just go, I say, "Well, Tim, you should be happy you have a car."
Yeah.
That's not the communication. You should be happy you have a car. All right?
You've dismissed what I'm trying to say to you.
Yeah, I just minimize and trivialize this huge burden.
Yeah.
You should be happy you have a car. "Oh, Theo, look, I'm having this crisis with my girlfriend." And, you should be happy you have a girlfriend. "Oh, my job is killing me." "Oh, come on, Tim, stop, man. Look around you. A lot of people don't have job. You have one. You should be happy.
Doesn't help me at all.
That's not communication.
Yeah. That's dismissing.
It's very dismissive. Not only dismissive, it's very spiteful as well.
Excellent. We've covered a lot now on communication and schooling, and it's been good because I think there's a lot of
Tim,
importance here.
you're absolutely right. I want to ask you some few questions yourself.
Oh, please.
You're quite an interesting person, Tim. I mean, what you're doing is wonderful. It's great. And I've been, wondering myself, around my head, why are you doing this thing that you're doing? Oh, by the way, can I use the...
Oh, man, work away. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Be conscious of that question.
I will.
I want to know why you're doing what you're doing. Where are you going with this? What's the end game for this? You think about that.
I will.
I'll be back in a second.
Okay. So... why am I doing it? I'm doing it because, like this episode would show, there's information there that people need, and it's hard to get to without having lived these experiences. And the experiences that people have come through provides a genuine first-hand knowledge and advice for other people. And I want to try and be able to provide a platform where people can come and find those insights and that knowledge.
Okay.
So at the core of it, I want to help people. I want to build a stronger, more well-advised community around me, and hopefully spread information that benefits people.
Okay, that's interesting. So essentially, if I understand you clearly, you seems to be going beyond the normal textbook training to more of teaching through the experiences of people's lives.
Yes.
Which is in fact very practical and straight away.
Yes.
People get connected to that.
And it's also very enjoyable. See, I enjoy sitting down and having these conversations.
Okay.
And you see, I always found myself having these conversations in public. And I always have moments where I'm leaving a conversation going, damn it, I wish I'd recorded that. Wow, I cannot believe that person just told me all that. And so I just said, look, if you enjoyed as much, and as you said to me earlier, speech was what you were good at. Mm-hmm. You were good at talking, you enjoy talking. And I'm good at talking as well. And so I said, look, this is be something that I could do, hopefully long term. Hopefully monetize it, find a way of making a living off it, and that way I'll never have to work a day in my life.
Wow, that's actually, you just preempted my next question. I was going to ask you, where do you intend to go with this? Do you intend to monetize this at some stage? Okay, right, okay.
At the minute it's all investment from time and effort. it's building something now at the minute that I hope to be able to sell.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
YouTube and social media, one of the advantages of social media is it provides you the ability to market yourself.
Okay.
Without having to build a company, build a factory, say, right, this is my address and my building, I produce clothes, I do this, this is why you're going to pay me money.
Okay.
Social media allows you not to have any fixed position and to still able to market yourself as a product, as a service.
Very encouraging, team. I also observe you seems to have some highly specialized gadgets here.
Yeah, I put a bit of money into it
Yeah,
now.
it must have really cost you a lot. You want to give us a clue how much it is that you already expended in this now? Look, well organized, you got all the equipment and everything.
You'd be talking... It's nothing crazy, but you'd be somewhere between probably... You see, I didn't buy the laptop especially for this, but all the equipment, maybe two grand, 2 or 3 grand, I'd say, has gone into at this stage. And it's the hours of editing and the hours of work that go in around that the real sacrifice is made.
Okay.
Like you're talking, there's hundreds of hours gone into it now at this stage, from logo design to planning your guests, to editing the footage, to marketing it, to research around the topics we're talking about. There's hours and hours and hours off camera.
Do you have anyone helping you at the background of all this? You all by yourself doing this, plus your day job.
Yeah.
Much respect, bro.
Thanks, man.
That's a lot, man, for one person to be doing. Much respect, man.
Thank you very much, man.
Wow, much respect. And by the way, 2,500 euros isn't a small deal. It's a serious, real deal. Well done to you, Tim.
Thanks,
well done. So, if I get you correctly, we should be looking forward to a much bigger audience and much bigger content and good quality content.
I have plans for how I'm going to grow it and expand it over time. But we need things like the Corona to move along, and because I need to connect with local businesses, and there's marketing strategies that are very effective on social media, and so I have big plans there. But see, the other thing though is that I'm also in the seminar business. All right, so that's that began before the podcast did. So we ran our first, myself and I do have a business partner for the seminars, Branislav. He's moved to Norway.
Yes, Branislav. I heard about the gentleman from McCain.
Yes, yeah, he's a good fella. So I was in business with him, and we ran our first seminar last summer. I think it was August, and that once Corona's gone, that ball is rolling. We have talks, we have topics, we have marketing strategies. We've got plans to move that along, and that will not only hopefully bring in revenue, but it will also bring out myself, Branislav. We're able to display ourselves, mention other projects we're running, such as Rambleland. Okay. And we can build on them. And hopefully through seminars, you meet very fascinating people and meet very smart people.
Fantastic.
And I'll be able to find more guests.
Wow.
But at the minute, I'm going to use all the guests that we have in Ireland. I'm going to move my way. I'm going to just move the cameras just to get the two of them in. So I'm going to try and exhaust the Irish resources for the time being.
Team, are we off?
No, she's still running.
She's still running with our video.
No, there's video there. It's just a single for the. It's now just me and you in the one frame.
All right. Okay. Just to know what's going on. Yeah. Before I start to tell you the life history of my grandmom. But yeah. No, you're doing a remarkable job. I must confess, I like the courage, and what's most interesting for me from what you've told me is that the motivation behind this whole thing is to be able to help people by taking the practical lived experiences of people, the experiential living experience, and translating it into the real world. Yeah. It's quite a great and challenging thing, and quite motivating for a young man like yourself.
Thank you.
To be doing, because ideally from the way we have looked at the society, a lot of young men your age will be looking out to get this type of teaching, but here you are trying to actually deliver the teaching to the people, which means that you are acutely aware of what's going on out there.
I'm doing my best anyway. But it's people like you see, keep me on the straight and narrow, and you give your inputs, and I'm only able to build the knowledge in my head from meeting people like you. So people like you are invaluable to me, Theo, and like this conversation today has been phenomenal. Like even just clarifying such things as empathy, where it fits in, listening, the importance of communication. You don't have these conversations ordinarily. Like most of the people you meet day to day, the cashier at the register, hello, how are you? How's your day? Yeah, terrible weather. Yeah, horrible. Thanks for boom, you're gone. Your partner, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever. How was your day? Yeah, it's grand, usual day. Okay, and okay, well, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't care. Grand, eat the dinner. Maybe some old small talk. And that's it. Your parents, you haven't seen them in ages. Oh, what are you getting up to now? How are you getting on with Corona? Yeah, grand. And you going for walks. Da, 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 da. Again, it's important information. It's important communication. But it's kind of empty. And it's not empty. It's lacking. It doesn't have the depth. And so when you take the time of an afternoon, you sit somebody down, you allow them to just talk, you really find the golden nuggets. And you see, you have to, like, if you're panning for gold, you have to dam an entire river, run all the water through, and you're going to go through thousands of gallons of water to get tiny little bits of gold. And the problem with the way sort of the TV and entertainment industry is at the minute is it's short. As short as we can, get the information there and out and gone. And yeah, you get very good information that way too. But you fail to capture some deeper nuggets of how people behave and think and interact. And in a longer podcast, you have the opportunity to go through the proverbial river and get your little nuggets of gold out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like the podcast structure, and that's why I do it this way, because there's obviously easier ways to do it. This is quite a free way. You wanted sort of topics to talk about, etc., and I was reluctant to give you those. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to allow people to provide the nuggets of gold, and through conversation finding them.
Wow, Tim, you really impressed me. There's a lot I can learn from you at some stage, Tim.
Oh man, you know all this. I often wonder, like, do adults like look at this and be like, yeah, we know this information?
No, I mean, there's so much so that I know, but there's a lot that I've heard you talked about that I actually don't know. And in fact, one of the things you just mentioned a while ago is the fact that communication with everyday people seems to be lacking, as you said, and not empty, but lacking. It reminded me of one of the workshops I attended, where, all around were academics, the profs with the red neck and the PhDs and all those that I respect a lot, and I also expect a lot, that they should know a lot, much more than I should know. But it's just a charging surprise to see how much of the gap, the lacking, is there. So it's not about the education, it's about the type of education that we've been ingrained or we're imbibing. And what seems to be missing, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this whole thing, I say the new frontier, the new type of education, the new future type of education, which we'll find predominantly very soon, it's already here anyway, will be self-development. Because more and more people are getting disenfranchised with our educational system. You go through all the rigors and the requirements, and then you come out at the end of the tunnel, all your aspirations and imagination and expectation are just dashed because there's no job for you or nothing. And decide if we are quite in tune with the trend of IT development and the way the social structure is going into the future. I hear some research already suggesting that by 2050, more than 25% of the jobs we know today as they are would disappear, and they're not coming back. So in other words, we have an educational system currently that is still training young adults
for jobs that
will never be there. I mean, the pandemic is a rude interruption to the human psyche. We already see that one trend we expect in the future is working from home.
Just about to mention that, yeah.
So, I mean, this is how the face of the labor force is going to change.
But the worrying thing, say, for example, on that topic there about children being trained for jobs that mightn't even be there, we won't make any steps to fix that problem until we have an entire generation who have no jobs and are not trained to do anything.
Yes, and apart from that, but while we wait to fix all that, if we don't have an intervention prior to fixing that, then we're going to end up having a situation where the mental health crisis and the social vices are just going to go through the roof.
And we're seeing it already rising.
So that's why the concept of self-development really come into play. For example, we've not talked about meditation and spirituality as an alternative to religion. This is the trend now. You can see it's very fashionable to hear about mindfulness, meditation, and all this. And these are extremely important. And in fact, I just try to stay away from that because of the length of our conversation. Otherwise, one of the effective mechanism and tools you need for a very amicable and friendly and constructive conversation is the principle and the practice of mindfulness.
What is mindfulness, though?
Mindfulness is some form of spiritual practices where you try to reset, you try to calm down all the noise in the mind, you try to connect with yourself through some forms of exercise. There is a lot of them that you can do, but more essentially is that you are shutting yourself from the external and redirecting your energy back to yourself so you can become mindful of your physiology, your emotions, your spirituality, and you're just connected. The whole idea is to have spirit, body, and soul as unison in connection. When you have that kind of connection, it just simply means that when we are having conversation, you will mentally assess what you're about to say. You actively be thinking of what I'm saying to you and mentally assess what you're about to say before you say it. Because now you're mindful, you're present with yourself, you're not absent. You want to say what you feel and what you actually honestly intend to say. And being mindful as well helps to switch on all your cognitive and intellectual capacity, not only to hear but to think and to see and to know what's happening around you so you don't get a misinterpretation. You're constantly there. Nothing happens without your observation and notice. And the other thing is there's a lot of noise in the world. Yeah? And there are a lot of emotions all flying around. You don't want to be reeled in from time to time by other people's negative emotions. So being mindful will remind you that that emotion is not that person. You see? Instead of reacting to the emotions, it's not the person. Instead of getting angry, you tend to find yourself being in the position of compassion for the person. It's going through that thing. Why? Because you're mindful. Yeah? Being mindful will help you to bridle your tongue. It will take you away from the trappings of your tongue. It will take you away from the trappings of excessive need to show compassion without evaluating the level of vulnerability you're getting yourself involved in. And more importantly, it will quieten your heart. And you breathe quietly and slowly. And you enjoy yourself. Because look, Tim, people hardly, believe me, I want you to go to make research. People hardly have 1 hour in one calendar year to connect with themselves, to talk with themselves. To talk with themselves.
And people are actually, when you find them when you require people to think on by themselves, they're actually scared of their own thoughts and they're not able to be alone. And that's what a lot of people are completely incapable of sitting in a room on their own with no phone and no distractions.
Absolutely. In fact, that brings us to another topic we're going to talk about much later down the road, kicking the can down the road. It's about loneliness. What is loneliness? Loneliness is not the absence of people in your life, but it's the absence of connection with yourself. That's loneliness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's nice.
I mean, the pandemic is a beautiful yet ugly situation we're experiencing, but a lot of beauty this pandemic have brought to those who care to observe and to listen. The pandemic have just come to give us a very short glimpse idea of what old age look like, where we're going to be isolated. We're going to be by ourselves. There will be nobody to contact. Now, your ability to connect with yourself and enjoy yourself and converse with yourself and be okay. But loneliness, people thought, is the absence of people. I've seen people in the midst of their friends, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, but the other person is lonely.
Yeah.
I've seen couples in a relationship, they're with themselves, but the lady or the man is lonely.
And it's that lack of connection with yourself.
With yourself. And that's where mindfulness and meditation come into play. Now, going to the biological and physiological levels of understanding and conceptualizing mindfulness and meditation is that we all know that cortisol creates pains in the body.
Yeah.
It's an inflammatory thing that does that. And we also know that our mind raises and wander away and try to even capture us and subjugate us as a slave. While in actual sense, the mind is supposed to be a toolbox for us to use to have a good life.
Yeah.
But then the mind turns around and hijack this body and capture us because what's been going on in the minds is so much. So mindfulness meditation helps first to shut the mind. It helps you take back the territory of your life. It regulates your breathing. It oxygenates your system. Put cortisol and inflammation at bay. Keeps your mental, anxiety and depression under check. And the most beautiful part of it? It begins to expose you the appreciation of yourself as a high quality creature that you've never really had time to look at. Yeah. Man. When was the last time you look at yourself in the mirror and you smile back to yourself? And you told yourself,
I do a little bit. I do too much, Theo.
So these type of tacit education we don't have from the mainstream conventional schools, I think is the new frontier for education.
Well, that's
that's what this is
about, man.
And I want to congratulate you for that too.
Well, Theo, thank you very, very much.
Congratulations, Tim.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much, Tim.